It is such a nice day out today that I'm gonna go ahead and get out and get started actually planting some stuff in the garden for this year, which I'm really excited about. I have quite a few things that I want to get done today. I need to re-till the garden up one more time before we plant, repot a blueberry bush that I just bought, and dig up one of the blueberry bushes that I already have planted out here in the ground. I have some onions I'd like to get planted today, 2 different kinds. I'm gonna try bulbs, and I'm also going to try the little onion starts and see which one of those 2 does better. I think it's also time that I could get some of the stuff that's sitting out on our front porch into the ground. My husband's cutting the grass, and I'm going to use his grass clippings that he gets today to mulch the garden with. I have to spray my apple trees. They saw a cat. My dogs are about to go nuts. Oh, he's not barking. Good. I was going to get some trellises up today, but I think we might leave that for next weekend because my tomatoes aren't tall enough to really need trellising yet, so I think we can get away with it for a few more weeks. I want to give you a quick update of what's going on out here, what we've already planted first before we get started. All of the stuff that is in ground is doing pretty well. Cabbages look like they're going to head up nicely. My lettuce is doing great. However, some of the stuff in the bed here is not doing so great. The carrots are fine. They need to be watered. My beets are okay. The lettuce is looking sad, and so is my cabbage, my red cabbage and my Dutch cabbage. The peas seem to be doing okay. I think maybe layering topsoil and gardening soil on top of each other was probably not the best idea. I probably should have mixed it all together if I was going to do a combination. Because I think what happened was the roots got down into the topsoil layer and were deprived of nutrients, and now they must have made it past that layer of soil because the stuff on the inside is starting to turn green and it's starting to grow a little bit more. So we'll see how the rest of it all fares. I feel like the seedlings are kind of stunted too because these carrots have been up for a few weeks and they haven't really done much, and I've come out and I've fertilized them twice. So I'll come out here and fertilize them again, and we'll just cross our fingers and hope for the best. All of the greens in the green stock are doing really well. I have a bunch of kale that I meant to thin out and didn't, but it seems to be doing great. I do have some cabbage down here that I wanted to take transplants out of and plant in the garden, but I never got around to it. And they're kind of too big now. I'm afraid if I pull them out now that the root system will get damaged. So I guess I'm just going to kind of let them be, see what happens with those. So we ended up getting 3 rows of these already started onions, and I've managed to get 1 whole row of yellow onions started here from bulbs. They're already planted in there, and then I'll go ahead and get a couple more rows started. This is actually turning out to be quite a lot more onions than I thought I would get from that bag. So quite a bit of my garden is going to be onions this year, which I'm very excited for. Onions are one thing that we eat quite a bit of, so I know they won't go to waste. He's got his first bag of grass for me. I was reading up online a little bit, and they say that you shouldn't put grass clippings on your garden while they're wet because they can cause soil compaction, So I'm just gonna kind of spread this out and let this dry out here in the corner for a little bit. Maybe just today, maybe into tomorrow, I'll just kind of give it a look over in a few hours and see how dry it's looking. Okay, hope you can hear me over the lawnmower. I'll just have to talk a little bit louder. But final consensus on rows is that the first 3 are white onions, the next 3 are yellow onions, and then we have a row of red onion, white onion, and then this last row right here is just a bunch of random onions that were the really small ones that were left over in the bag. I don't think they'll do much, but I planted them anyway, and we'll see how they do. I'll check them throughout the season. If they don't bulb up real nice, then I'll go ahead and just use them for their green tops, and we'll make some onion powder, or we'll use them for scallions or something. Now I'm gonna go get tomato plants to plant out here. I'm starting to worry that I might run out of garden space. I know this still looks like a lot of space to garden, but with how many tomatoes I plan on putting in and all the other stuff I want to get in, I wonder if I might have to expand things a bit. So this was a tomato plant that I actually picked up at a nursery near us. They had them for sale this big at only $5 a piece, so I thought that was a pretty good deal, especially since this one already had a tomato on it. It did look a lot healthier when I bought it. It since looks a little more sad now. I think that's just because of some shock from going from a greenhouse to outside. And here I'm just cutting off the bottom branches of the plant so that we can bury it deeper in the ground, and this whole stem area will start to branch off with roots underground. So I did rake this area a little flatter and took the handle of my rake and just kind of dragged it along to try to make a line parallel with my onions. That way when I go to plant my tomatoes, I can kind of try to keep things looking a little straighter. Now, the soil that we have here in my garden is very clay heavy. And so when I went to go dig these holes out, I'm going to try something different than I did last year. Last year I took this drill attachment that I have and drilled just a straight hole into the ground. It was deep, but it was not very wide. And I planted my tomatoes in that as deep as they would go in the hole. And this year I'm going to try to plant them in a hole that is very wide and deep, and I am going to backfill the holes with loose topsoil from the top of my garden and then plant the tomato on top of the loose back soil. My thought process behind that is if I backfill some of the hole with some loose soil, it'll give the tomatoes roots somewhere to go. It'll be able to go sideways and it'll be able to go straight down, as where last year when I dug my holes, it was just enough room for the root ball and the stem, and there was like not very much room for the roots to grow. My plants still did pretty well, but I'm hoping that by doing this, I will be able to get really big tomato plants that are putting off a lot of tomatoes. This is also ultimately why I decided to not do weed fabric in my tomato portion of the garden for this year, because it would be pretty difficult to have holes this big if I'm tarping, because when you tarp, you lay the tarp down first with the holes in it, then dig the hole with the drill and put it down in the hole. It would be very difficult to measure out where I have these tomatoes planted out so that I could make sure the holes are in the right area on the tarp according to where the tomatoes are, and then put it down after I dig the holes. That would be way too difficult. I think it's just about time for a well-deserved break. I'm gonna get all this watered in, and I'm gonna get myself watered and take a bit of a break, and we'll see what else we can wrap up tonight. I don't think I'm gonna get any more tomatoes in the ground tonight, but we'll see if we can get our apple trees sprayed at least. And we might have to save putting in our blueberry bushes in their pots until tomorrow.
Okay, it's time to get back to it. After resting, I decided to grab this orchard spray to spray my apple trees down with, and I also had to get one of these trees staked upwards because it was leaning, and this was actually the one that had the most black rot damage. I ended up having to cut off where the black rot was, and it was damaged a lot worse than I thought, and I ended up cutting off quite a bit from the top. I don't really know how well this apple tree is going to do in the future with how much that I had to chop off. This is my first time like caring for apple trees, so I'm not really sure whether I should just leave it like it is or pull it out and just start over. So I end up leaving this just because I'm curious to see what happens. We ended up going to Walmart the next day, and I picked up a really nice looking Gala apple tree, and we got that planted in the ground as well. And I did respray all of these trees because it had rained overnight. We wrapped things up on Saturday night by going ahead and doing some weed control around my garden. And if you saw my last video, then you'll know that we already tried combating this issue by putting down some weed fabric under the fencing. That's actually on the left side over here that we're not burning. But it was taking us way too long to get this all put down around the garden, and I was starting to run out of weed fabric. So we decided to go ahead and just burn it this time, and I might even continue to burn it the rest of the season because this really didn't take all that long to do. You just have to be really careful when you do this because it has to be a nice day that's not windy, and it can't be dry out. So you can't really do this in the fall once things start drying out because it will catch everything. And I only do this when my husband's home too. That way he's standing by with a hose, or I'm standing by with the hose if he's weed burning. That way if it does catch on anything, we're able to put it out immediately.